But first, to a team that defied expectations. In 2021, the football team at the California School for the Deaf made it to the state championships, but suffered a disappointing loss. In 2022 and 2023, they made it back and won. Now, a new book chronicles that historic run and the abilities that make these players particularly formidable on the field. Stephanie Tsai has a look for our ongoing coverage of the intersection of health and arts, part of our Canvas coverage.
At the California School for the Deaf, Riverside, the Cubs are gearing up for a three-peat. Coach Keith Adams, here using sign language to call plays, has led the team to 2 state championships in their 8-man football division. But it wasn't always this way. The decades-old scoreboard harkens to a time when the Cubs rarely had winning seasons. That ended in 2021, when they entered the championship undefeated.
You had all of these deaf players who, when they were younger, had played on hearing teams. And it was very frustrating. So all of these players came together here, and they felt this brotherhood. They felt this camaraderie, and I think that was part of the winning formula.
Journalist and author Thomas Fuller started following the Cubs in the fall of 2021. His New York Times article described the rise of the all-deaf team, which beat hearing teams time and again that year.
Underneath these Friday night lights, there is something special happening.
The article attracted national media attention by the likes of The Kelly Clarkson Show and World News Tonight with David Muir.
Running back Enos Zornoza, number 2, signing this. Deaf people can do anything. We're not the stereotype that's out there.
Soon after came a pledge from California's governor to fund a $43 million athletic complex at the school.
I just wanted to have a camera shine on the feelings that these players had being together and the bond that deafness gave them.
Now Fuller has published a book about the Cubs, The Boys of Riverside. It's more than an American underdog to undefeated story. It looks at deaf culture, a term he writes encompasses an entire class of people and their way of life. At a book event at the school, the intergenerational bonds of deaf families was on full display, and fervent applause greeted the journalist.
And I came in and I said, I love this team. I love your story.
After the 2021 season, Fuller took a leave of absence from his job at the New York Times to write the book. Following the Cubs throughout the next season, game after game, he noticed something.
The question of what's a disability. And here's a team where everyone is deaf, all the players, all the coaches, and yet they are using deafness as an advantage, as an edge.
His reporting included interviews with experts outside football, including David Corina, a cognitive neuroscientist who explains why deaf people may have what he calls hyperabilities, starting with the way they take in what they see.
But for a deaf person, that span of attention is spread further out into the periphery. Okay, so it's like that flashlight is a much broader beam.
More like a floodlight?
Yeah, that's great. It's more like a floodlight than a flashlight. Right, that's good. With the caveat that I don't mean it to be necessarily brighter, but it's just covering greater area.
Vision essentially steps up to fill in blanks left by the lack of auditory cues. Quarterback Caden Adams is a senior this year. He explained what it's like through interpreter Julie Hurtis.
We rely on our eyes, so we kind of see the movement a little bit ahead of time. So we kind of think 2 steps ahead more than a hearing team. We're much more alert.
Karina says the science also suggests that deaf people are more attuned to movement around them. That could be an advantage, for example, to a wide receiver. Watch Jory Valencia intercept this pass in a 2021 game, which the Cubs won by 11 points.
If you are able to detect that, hey, that ball is going to be headed in my direction, you might be able to pivot earlier and actually catch the ball than a hearing person who doesn't have those initial milliseconds of extra processing time.
And there's another hidden advantage, the team's use of sign language, in this case ASL or American Sign Language. It's not only more efficient than jogging back and forth from field to huddle, it's unifying. Junior wide receiver Gio Visco recalled how it felt to play on a hearing team when he was younger through interpreter Mark Biarski.
But like AAU, I do like playing on the hearing team, but communication is always an issue. Frustration when trying to deal with a coach and trying to communicate with the coach. Now, if you have a deaf coach, then that is better.
Coach Keith Adams, who himself played on deaf and hearing football teams growing up, says the team's success comes from the supports unique to being at a school for the deaf.
They come from various backgrounds, different skin color, different status, family status. The commonality is they're deaf. And I think that helps. I think those who experience maybe mainstream education, it was a lonely time. They just have so much more opportunity as a deaf student going to a school for the deaf.
Multiple generations of families have attended the school and come back to teach or coach. Students range in age from 18 months to 22 years, and all receive a bilingual education, meaning English and American Sign Language. By high school, well, the cafeteria is a hive of teen expression, like you'd see at any other high school. April MacArthur is the school's superintendent.
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges that deaf children face is language access. There is a stigma related to sign language. So with this book and the attention that has been shown, it really does show that sign language in itself is a language just like any other language. And deaf children have the right to have access to that.
MacArthur says the attention brought by Thomas Fuller's reporting has led to an increase in interest and enrollment. For the author, writing The Boys of Riverside was what he called a tonic from his typical stories, covering homelessness, the pandemic, and politics.
There's this great line in the prologue of your book in which you write, "In reporting the book, I came to see the Cubs as a flesh and blood realization of the American dream." How so?
So these kids, their parents were from all over the globe. They all came together in an environment that allowed them to thrive, an environment that you couldn't have in Tehran, that you couldn't have in a lot of other countries. But America gave them this school, and America gave them the opportunity to play together and to win.
In their season opener, the Cubs won 68-28. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Stephanie Tsai in Riverside, California.